guys, how are you? Welcome back. Or actually, I'm back in Milan for a couple of days, enough to get this reading out, which will be for the week of August 31st. And then I will post in the next 2 days the first 15 days of September. Just starting really quickly with the astrology. So yesterday was the new moon, and that was in Virgo at 7 degrees, or 6 degrees 47, 7 degrees Sabian, which, as I said, was the message for that Sabian was a harem. And we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, and in the posts that I was doing on the community board, that is really about a choice, like feeling like you have lots of choices or choosing what you want, or perhaps a moment of illicit pleasure. Anyway, as you can see here, and that new moon was really strong because it was perigee. So it is a super moon. It's the closest that the moon gets to the planet Earth, and that causes an increase of water. There may have been some cases of water retention. Women may have felt their breasts enlarged. The sea gets fuller. Lakes and rivers get fuller. So it has a tremendous effect on the tides. I was reading a story about this river in England, that when this happened, this phenomenon of the perigee moon happens, that one of their rivers actually has waves that flow upstream. So there may be some things that were happening that were unexpected, felt a little bit backwards. Now, as you can see here, this is Virgo. This is like a huge pileup of planets in Virgo. So we have Mercury, which is Virgo's ruling planet. So all of these planets here are responding to Mercury. We have the Sun, we have Mars, we have Venus, and we have the Moon. Now the Moon will change signs into Libra tomorrow, I believe. But right now, see, the thing with Virgo is that while it's an earth sign and while it's analytical, it can also be kind of like I don't want to say insane, but frazzled. It can get frazzled very easily. So with Mercury in Virgo, sometimes it can feel like the worst form of Mercury retrograde. So you may have noticed some travel hiccups, people just being generally kind of their thoughts all over the place, scattered, like lots of scattered mental energy. So anything that has to do with communication, anything that has to do with travel, siblings, all the Mercury aspects, as long as it's in Virgo and ruling all of these planets, you may note that there is a lot of extra sort of nervous energy going around. Now, for you guys who know that, you can expect that in other people also. What I would advise is that whatever your self-care routine and getting grounded is, maybe stay away from the coffee, maybe stay away from caffeine, maybe do an extra meditation. Before you because people who are frazzled can quickly suck you into their sort of vortex. So whenever you find that someone's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do that? Just sort of take a step back energetically from that and gather yourself, sort of ground yourself so that it's not the two of you going into some sort of cyclone. Now, that's sort of the watch out. This is going to be, that's the thing with this year, is that these planets have been traveling together like a baby gang for a really long time. So usually we have planets kind of all over the place, more like splay charts. With all these planets traveling together, the energy has been super, super, super focused. So this is our turn at Virgo energy. So this is our turn at how do we perfect the things how can we find the cracks and how can we perfect them? Virgo is all about turning things that are broken back to their virgin state, which is of course impossible, which is why the Virgo is often frustrated, because there's really no way to get to where it wants to get to. However, we can focus on that process of perfecting. Now, the good news is that Virgo is in a trine to Capricorn and in a trine to Taurus. So this Uranus here, which would normally cause issues, is in a helpful energy to whatever's going on here in Virgo. And these Pluto planets are also in a helpful energy to this Virgo energy. So whereas like when it was in Cancer, when it was in Aries, this was really tough, this will be actually sort of the saving grace, that you'll find that these act less like, whereas these planets may be a little bit like, I don't know what to do, these will actually offer some wise guidance or some courage, as opposed to making it feel like they're blowing shit up in your life. Now, Jupiter is square to these planets over here. So he is going to, he's kind of a nice guy though. He just wants to make sure that it's big enough, So it's like Virgo can also get scared sometimes. And it might take a step back. And he says, no, like go, this is a kind of go for gold square here. So this one I don't think it will feel uncomfortable as these planets go through this. I just think that he'll want to know and the first one that's going to come up, the big one is Venus. That will be in the next couple of days. Is just going to say the thing that you care about, the thing that you love, like, is it in line with your beliefs? He's going to give you a checklist of all things Jupiterian. Is it big enough? Is it in line with your beliefs? Can you get with this for the next 12 years? Is it going to allow you to expand your thinking, expand your existence? All these planets will go through his checklist, but these guys are helping out at the same time. So that's actually quite nice. So this week is actually rather quiet in terms of transits. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the cards. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So I wanted to fill you in on a little bit of that Virgo energy. While I was pre-shuffling the cards, literally every single deck I was shuffling flew out of my hands and onto the floor, like multiple times. And then I went to go look for that was the perception card that came out. I went to go look for my Android phone to be able to tape this or to record it. And it was out of batteries. And then it was just like a series of minor annoyances after the other. And so that was very much what I said about this Virgo energy. And the other thing I wanted to mention was the other day I had sort of found out of nowhere. I got this in Mexico. It's called, it's a black obsidian, but it was known, this is where the word fool's gold came from, because it kind of like has a gold shimmer to it. So when it's black obsidian, but when the gold diggers, I don't remember what they're called. My English is terrible. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I spent 2 weeks with my Italian former in-laws. So, but when they would see this rock, they would think it was gold. And so they would fish it out. But the reason I mention it is I haven't worn it in years. And it literally just sort of landed in my hands a couple of days ago, and it's a very grounding stone. So for any of you who have like black tourmaline or quartz, smoky quartz that you like, anything that you use as a grounding stone, I would highly suggest that in this period, because I have a feeling this Virgo season's gonna be fun in that frenetic minor annoyance Virgo way. So let's start with the reading for the week of, hold on, is that the same card? That'd be hysterical. The week of August 31st for Aries. Messages and energy for Aries, the week of August 31st. Nice, that's a nice way to start. Enlightenment. And the other card, so the green card that came up first was perception, and then the one that came up after was growth. So and it's funny, I was going to kind of save this for the September reading. I guess I'll start it here and finish it. September is kind of an energy of, it's more of I always consider it more the new year than the new year. Can I have cards, please, for the energy and messages for Aries, week of August 31st, 2019? Because you come back and, it's like all of our health, we tend to start new health routines. All right, I'll take both of those. So we have coming apart, which came up in the reverse, and then we have deep freeze, which came up direct. And I have a feeling this is like starting out with the Saturn direct energy. We'll take a look at both of those. But yes, September tends to be a moment where we look at, it's because Virgo runs the day-to-day. Sixth house is our day-to-day living. It's our health and wellness, health and well-being, diets, sports. It's anything we do to get from one day, to stay healthy from one day to the next. In a very concrete and material manner. So not spiritual. This is about like living well in our bodies on this three-dimensional plane. So we tend to come back. We take new classes. We start new diets. We start new health regimens. Kids go back to school. It's like our whole routine sort of settles back in after the summer vacation, particularly for those of you who have kids. Can I have cards, please, for Aries for the week of August 31st, 2019? Messages and energy for Aries. August 31st, 2019. So there's sort of like an analysis, it's like looking at new yoga studios, or do I want to renew my gym membership? Or maybe it's time for me to lose those pounds after summer vacation, after eating too much. So this tends to be the energy about being very conscious of moving into a new chapter. Kids that were in 8th grade go into high school. They're even like in the business world, there's you may have to close your books at the end of September. There's a quarter that closes. So there's a moment when it's like, okay, what are we planning also for the next year? Usually the annual planning in any sort of corporate environment starts in September for the new year, for when the deep freeze comes. And thinking about, okay, what do I not want anymore? Like, do I want to renew my gym membership? Do I want to renew my gym membership and carry forward another year? Going into the winter, as the winter comes, is that what I want to take with me? So there's this sort of planning and analytical energy about what things do I want to bring with me as I begin this new next chapter, very conscious that a new year is coming up. Now let me get this. This feels more like the September read, but maybe I won't have to do both. We'll see. Can I have, okay. I have to look that up, as you know. And then let's do these. Can I have energy and messages for Aries for the week of August 31st, 2019? Energy and messages for Aries, week of August 31st, 2019. Okay, so that's sort of like taking another look, looking at from a different perspective of things you want to start, things you want to materialize, things you want to carry forward with you into that new chapter. So far, relatively descriptive. Can I have, let's say, 2 more cards, please, for the week of August 31st, 2019? For Aries, August 30th. Oh, that's a lot. That's way too many. That's way too many. Can I have, and that's likely what's going to happen, especially with all those planets in Virgo. It may be hard to discern. That's why I said, kind of detach whenever you sort of feel this like weird vortex happening with other people where they're starting to get really frazzled and uncomposed. You take a step back and and detach from that energy and look at things from a different way. Like, try and understand what it is that they're really saying. Don't get caught up in people talking in circles, which is definitely going to be happening. Let's get two more cards, please, for Aries, week of August 31st. Two more cards. Okay, thank you. Nice. Okay. So, so definitely, they're clearly leveling up. It's like, there's a master of sort of emotional fulfillment, got everything that I need, everything that makes me happy, on this fool's journey in life, so it's like taking, and again, this is like the second time I've had the readings bookended by major arcana. So you may have to take a different perspective. Like I said, take a step back, take a different perspective at all of the information that's going to be coming at you, and like try and detach from the minor avoidances that can come up. Keep yourself very focused on that one thing, don't get lost in, so I'll give you an example. It's like, I'm looking for a new yoga studio. Or I've actually decided I don't want to do like normal gym anymore. I want to start doing yoga again. So I'm looking for yoga studios. There's 40,000 in my neighborhood. I don't know which one to go to, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, if I remember why I was doing this in the first place, there's really one that speaks to what I wanted in the first place. It's not as close as there's one that's way closer to me, but it doesn't really do the stuff that I like. So, if I'm going to start this whole new journey, which is going to last for the next year because you do annual memberships, I want to make sure, and the Fool is looking at this King of Cups, I want to make sure that whatever it is that I pick to invest my money in is something that's going to keep me happy for the long haul. So it's like, don't lose sight of what your original vision was as you go down the road. Okay, now let me take a look at this and then double check these cards too. That was sort of a very, I know I tend to usually do more spiritual messages. You can take that kind of very material decision or very earthly example of the yoga studio and also level it up into, what am I doing with my life, right? Which is also some kind of, those are usually the discussions. I mean, we tend to, like in September, we tend to start actually manifesting, like physically manifesting the decisions that we've made over the course of the year. January tends to be a moment of sort of like putting new pieces into place. And then there's a moment of reflection. And in September, we kind of like see the first fruits, the harvest, of what it is that we put into play during the freeze, during the new year. So it's like the starting to manifest what it was that we planted back in January. But so let me check this and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, cool. So I've checked these and they're all saying the same thing. This is about making room for something new to come in, that sometimes we can get into habits, circular habits from the past, things that we've done. And this talks about being at a new point in your life, in your thinking, in the year, where it's time to make some changes. And to be flexible, it literally says be flexible and be open to sort of taking a second look at what's going on in your life and being willing, this is the coming apart card, being willing to walk away from that which is no longer serving you. So like I said, in my very mundane example of the gym, I've been going to the gym with my personal trainer for the last 3 years. It's not giving me the results that I wanted. I did yoga over the summer like I used to once upon a time, and it's making me much happier. So now I have to unfortunately fire my personal trainer and find something new. So that example, again, may play out into your life in different ways. It may be a job. It may be friends. It may be marriages. It may be relationships. It may be a way of thinking. It may be a new project. It can be anything. But at this point, moving into this part of September, before we get into the January energy, it's time to take stock of what's no longer a part of your life and be willing to let it go and to move into something new, right? And you may be in the process of finding what it is that will be your next thing, or finding what it is that's going to make you happy materially or mundanely. And there may be a lot of messages coming at you, or it may be a choice, because this talks about also having to make choices that are hard, that may come as earthquakes in your day-to-day existence. But that there is clearly a moment, and this is clear everywhere, there is clearly a moment of leveling up into another chapter, which is typically what happens in September. Now, again, this can run the entire range from the most boring yoga studio to I can't be in this marriage anymore. But it's a moment to acknowledge, we have 2 10s here. It's a moment to acknowledge what has ended and what needs to be left behind, what we need to walk away from and what we need to walk into. That's what's interesting about this Fool card, is he's launching himself off a cliff, yes, but he's starting a new journey, but also walking away from an old journey. So there is a very clear turning the page energy for this week. Again, as I said, try and stay as grounded as possible, because it feels like a lot of energy is going to be flying around. People may try and talk circles around you, like I said. Things may not seem clear. Go into this card says to take a break or just step back, so go in when things start to feel like too much and you get into that analysis paralysis that I mentioned last week. Take a step back, ground yourself as much as possible, get into that sort of earthly energy, but not the fickle earthly energy, go into that Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn. That's what's going to help you right now, is to ground yourself as much as possible into the transformation, to make it as 3D as possible. So no longer a mental process, but starting to be a process in the physical. Now, I hope this is clear. I know as I was saying it, I was starting to get a little as well. I think it's clear. It's time to acknowledge this. It's time to acknowledge a new chapter, whatever that may be, from A to Z. To be open to what the next phase looks like. To be willing to walk away from that which doesn't serve you anymore. And to be able to take a step back when things get to be too much. But ultimately, what's in between these 2 major arcanas, going from the Ace of Pentacles to the King of Cups, so whatever it is turns into the material beginning, the concrete beginning, turns into the maximum of emotional happiness in between this peaceful analysis and this bold step into the future. So what you're looking for
is not necessarily money, but what you can do concretely to get you to the King of Cups. And that's going to mean walking away from something that no longer makes you happy, that no longer serves you, because you're in a very different place, and it's time to recognize that. This keeps coming up. So if you're not, and this will be very important when Saturn goes direct, if you're not acknowledging the fact, if you haven't done your homework, if you refuse to take this step, this process is not going to feel pleasant. That's what these two cards say. You know, if you've moved into it slowly and carefully, when Saturn goes direct, which is on the 14th, what comes later, before we get into the deep freeze of Capricorn season, you know, if you've done your homework, what comes later will feel easier. If you haven't done your homework, it's going to feel like an earthquake. So the energy for this week is to get very clear on what it is that you need to move away from and what it is that you need to move towards. Okay? Thanks for watching. I'm gonna, I'll do a September reading, I guess, even though this kind of covers most of it. We'll see what else comes up. I actually want to do for September, I was going to bring in these cards, but this is starting to get a little long. So I'm going to bring these cards in to talk about where to look for our messages. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Take care.